Hi everyone, welcome to Simply Me, Simply Joanne, and today I want to tell you guys a story. Now this took place a couple of months ago, and I was walking to work and I received a phone call. I was listening to my gospel and I received a phone call, and it was for an interview for a job. And during that time I've been actively looking for a job, desperately looking for a job, and I was really ready to accept anything that was handed to me. So I got a phone call and I got super excited. It was for a data entry clerk position, and I got super excited. I'm like, God, thank you so much for this phone call. Moving on to the day of the interview. The interview was at, I believe it was at 9:30. My alarm did not ring. My alarm did not ring, and I woke up at, I believe, like 8:45, and I started freaking out. I'm like, okay. So I got ready, took a quick shower, got my clothes together. I'm like, you know what, I'm going to call Uber. I call Uber and tell me how there is no Uber. The app clearly says no Uber available. I'm like, God, no, this cannot be happening. You gave me this job. How is it that I didn't wake up on time even though I set up my alarm? And I was freaking out. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to call up one of my friends that lived close to my place to ask for a ride. And when I called him, he's like, actually, I'm not even in town. I'm in Montreal. So now I was really freaking out, y'all. So I decided to call a taxi. When I called a taxi, it was a snowy day. I called a taxi and the operator told me, yeah, we can get a taxi to you. However, there's a 45-minute wait. And I'm like, yo, I don't have a 45-minute. Yo, I was freaking out. I was pacing up and down the house. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I cannot miss this interview. How is it that God gave me this interview now? All I have to do is wake up on time, and I'm not even capable of doing that. So I was beating myself up. I was really mad. And out of nowhere, I'm like, hey, let me try. I kept trying Uber, and finally I was able to pick up a ride because somebody was doing a drop-off really close to my house. So he was like 3 or 5 minutes away. So I just put on my shoes, I got down, and I got into the Uber. I run to the place and I'm like, hey, I'm here for the interview and all of that. She's like, yeah, have a seat. A couple of minutes later, I go into the interview room. The guy's being oddly really nice, and I'm like, you know what, maybe this is God. You know, God is great all the time. And he kept asking me questions, but I realized that the questions that he was asking me basically had nothing to do with, you know, anything administrative. So the more he kept talking, the more I realized that this is actually not for an admin job. They really just told me it was an admin job to get me there, but the position was actually to basically do door-to-door for to sell insurances to people. Y'all, when I realized that, my face went I just shut down. I was livid. When I left the interview room, I had to walk to the bus stop, and my bus was coming in about 10 minutes. So I was outside. Keep in mind, it was freezing that day. I just spent about, I don't know, $15 to $20 on an Uber to get me to this place, for you to then tell me that it's not for an admin position, but it's actually for door-to-door. Door-to-door is for some people. Hey, I respect your hustle. You do what you want to do. But for me, that's not what I want for myself. And I was so pissed. And I remember I was walking up and down the street waiting for this bus, and I was just mad. I'm like, God, are you serious? Are you serious? You are the one that made those people call me. You're the one that got me that Uber last minute for me to get here. You're the one that did this. And then at the end of the day, you're going to tell me that this was for a door-to-door? God, how dare you? Like, I was talking. I'm like, really? Like, are you serious? But I was livid because I just thought about the time, the energy, the stress that I went through to get here, for you to tell me that I'm going to be doing door-to-door. Like, no. And then there was a voice, or like a thought, that came into my head, and it was like, who told you that I am the one that sent that job towards you? Did you ask me if this job opportunity was from me, or did you assume that it was from me? When did you ever come to me during those few hours or few days that you were preparing for this interview? When did you ever bring this forth to me and be like, God, this is what happened? Is this from me? Is this from you? What do you want me to do? And that's when it hit me. How many times do we do that? How many times do we, wish for things for ourselves? Like, for example, your career. In this case, your career, for example, you're like, okay, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor. But that's your goal for yourself. Your goal does not always align with God's goal. When we set a goal for ourselves, we expect for God to align with our goal. But that's not how it works. That's not the order. It's the reverse. God sets a goal for us, and then we align ourselves towards that goal. So that goal that I had set to myself, that standard that I had lowered to myself, that was not to God's standards. So when you're limiting yourself and you are lowering your standards to bare minimum, and God then blocks you off, like experience after experience, he keeps showing you like, this is not for you, this is not for you, or this is not the time, this is not the time, and you don't listen, we then think automatically, God, you have failed me. You told me that this is what you wanted for me, and you're not showing up. You're not fulfilling your promises towards me. God has something bigger and better for you, but you can't see that because your fears and your circumstances blind you from seeing the true path that God wants you to go after. This is your plan for yourself, but this is God's plan for you. And God does not limit himself. He wants the best for you. He wants for you to live to your best ability. He wants you to live your best life. But a lot of the time we limit ourselves. I limited myself to thinking that administrative data clerk job was for me. And you want to do this and that, but God is telling you this is not what I want for you. Yes, these things that you want for yourself are great. Kudos to you. But I know you can do better because you have me as your strength. You have me as your foundation. And there is nothing that I cannot do for you if I want that thing for you. When we go to Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11, it states this: "For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, said the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end." What this really means is God is saying that I know the plans for you. I have good plans for you. And his intention is not to hurt you. Be attentive to the will of God, because God will always want the best thing for you. The things that you don't even think that you can get because you are limited to your own understanding and to your fears and to your circumstances, God does not take that into account. God has bigger and better plans for you. He wants what's best for you. So if you are attentive to the will of God and you do by the will of God, you will be living your best life. Before you start getting pissed and before you start claiming that God has let you down, that God is not fulfilling his promise towards you, ask yourself this question: the thing that you're complaining about, was that really from God? Did God really place that in your life? Or is it something that you wanted for yourself, that you desired for yourself? And the simple fact that God refused to back it up, refused to follow your will, your desire, is that what is making you feel that way? Don't blame God for not following your plans. Instead, you need to turn within yourself and ask yourself, why is it that you are refusing to follow God's plan? A plan that has been carefully thought out, perfectly carved specifically for you. That's it for today. Thank you for tuning in, and by his grace, I will see you in my next video.